Hi everyone, welcome to your notes video. This is for Chapter 4, Lesson 6, Solve Inequalities Using Multiplication or Division. And this road sign here basically sums up what you need to know for this lesson. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you reverse the inequality symbol. Your learning target for this lesson is to write and solve inequalities using multiplication or division. And your success criteria is I can apply the multiplication and division properties of inequality to produce equivalent inequalities. I can solve inequalities using multiplication or division. And I can apply inequalities involving multiplication or division to real-life problems. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions. It contains the symbols less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. To write a word sentence as an inequality, look for the following phrases to determine where to place the inequality symbol. Key phrases for less than would be is less than or is fewer than. Key phrases for greater than is greater than, is more than. Key phrases for less than or equal to would be is less than or equal to, is at most, or is no more than. And finally, key phrases for greater than or equal to symbol would be is greater than or equal to, is at least, and is no more than. Multiplication and division property of inequality. When you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by the same positive number, the inequality remains true. So what this is saying is when you multiply or divide both sides, when you're solving, and you multiply or divide by a positive number, then nothing changes. As we see in example 1, we're going to multiply both sides by 5. 5 over 5 is 1, so we're left with x is less than or equal to. And then negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. X is less than or equal to, so the arrow is going to point to the left. Circle gets filled in because x could be less than negative 15 or equal to negative 15. Now it's your turn to try it. Solve the inequalities and graph the solution, then push play when you're ready for the answers. For number 1, we have to undo divide by 3. So we're going to multiply by 3 instead. So whatever we do to one side, we do to the other as well. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we're left with n is less than, and 1 times 3 is 3. Open circle because it's not equal to. Arrow to the left because it's less than. For number 2, we want to isolate the variable m, so we'll multiply by 10. 10 over 10 is 1, leaving us with m. Multiply the other side by 10. 10 times 0.5 is 5, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So negative 5. It is greater than or equal to, so the circle's filled in, and m has to be to the right or equal to negative 5. So our arrow goes to the right. And number 3, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. 3 over 3 cross cancels and 2 over 2 cross cancels, leaving you with p. On the other side, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3 over 2. Let's rewrite negative 3 as a fraction. And then 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. 2 times 1 is 2. So p is equal to negative 9 halves, or we would say p is equal to negative 4 and a half. So negative 4 and a half goes here. Oh, and I got to change those. It's not equal, it's less thans. I apologize for that. And then, let's see, P is less than, so an open circle to the left. For example 2, now we're just solving an inequality using division. So this one we're going to divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so we have x is greater than. And then on the right side, negative divided by a positive is negative, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So negative 3, an open circle, because x is not going to be equal to negative 3. X is going to be greater than negative 3, arrow pointing to the right. Now you're trying it with questions 4, 5, and 6. Push play again when you're ready. For number 4, we're going to divide both sides by 4. 4 over 4 is 1, so we have b is greater than or equal to. And 2/4, that simplifies. Divide by 2 over 2, and you get 1/2. So that's positive 1/2. It's going to be a filled in circle because b could be equal to 1/2, or it could be greater, arrow pointing to the right. Number 5, we'll divide both sides by 12. 12 over 12 is 1, leaving you with just a k is less than or equal to. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 24 divided by 12 is 2. So our integer is negative 2. It's k less than or equal to, so it could be equal to negative 2. We'll color that in. And arrow points to the left because k is less than. Number 6, we're going to divide by 2.5. 2.5 over 2.5 is 1, so that just leaves us with q. And then negative 15 divided by 2.5. A negative divided by a positive is negative, and 2.5 goes into 15 6 times. So negative 6 is our integer, an open circle because q can't be equal to negative 6. It has to be greater than, so the arrow points to the right. Our next key idea, multiplication and division properties of inequality. When you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by the same negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol must be reversed for the inequality to remain true. Negative 4 is less than negative 6. So we're looking right here. If we just multiply or divide by a negative, in other words, this negative sign goes over to the opposite side, so now we have positive 4 and negative 6, the inequality sign must be flipped. A negative sign in an inequality does not necessarily mean you must reverse the inequality symbol. Please only reverse the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide each side by a negative number. Let's take a look further. For this example 3, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is negative 2/3. And we're going to multiply negative 6 times negative 2/3. On the left side, 3 and 3 cross cancel, 2 and 2 cross cancel, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So all you're left with is n is less than or equal to. On the right side, we're going to take 6 over 1 and multiply it times 3 over negative 2. 6 times 3 is 18. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 18 divided by negative 2 is negative 9, and because we divided by the negative, our inequality symbol must flip, going the other way. So now when we graph this, we'll have a filled in circle. N is going to be equal to, so filled in, or greater than negative 9. On number 13, we're going to divide both sides by 6. 6 over 6 is 1, so we're just left with n is less than. And then negative 42 divided by 6. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 42 divided by 6 is 7. Please notice, we did not divide by a negative. We divided by positive 6. So therefore, we do not flip the sign. N is less than negative 7, so the arrow points to the left and our circle remains open. In question 14, we're going to multiply by 8 and multiply by 8. On the right side, 8 over 8 is 1, so that just leaves us with negative g. And on the left side, 8 times positive 4 is 32. In this situation, we don't want to solve for negative g, we want to solve for positive g. So we are going to divide by a negative, or divide by negative 1 on both sides. The reason we're doing this is because on the right side, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and g divided by 1 is just g. Because we divided by a negative, we're going to flip our inequality sign, and then on the left side, a positive divided by a negative is negative, and 32 divided by 1 is 32. So negative 32 is our point. It will be a filled-in circle because g could be greater than negative 32, or it could be equal to. Now you try it. Attempt number 7 and 8, and then push play when you're ready. For number 7, we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1, so we have x is greater than. And on the right side, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 3 is 12. However, we multiplied by a negative, so we need to flip our sign. X is actually less than 12. So an open circle with an arrow pointing to the left. For number 8, we're going to begin by multiplying both sides by 2. 2 over 2 cancels, leaving us with negative y. 2 times 0.5 is 1. We just need to get rid of the negative y, so we'll divide by negative 1 on both sides. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Because we divided by a negative, we flip the sign, and 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. So y is going to be less than or equal to negative 1. Because I know these are a little harder, here are 2 additional try-its. Please give them a shot and then push play. For number 9, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. Six and 6 cross simplify, as do 5 and 5. So we're left with m is less than or equal to. And here we'll multiply as well. Let's cross simplify. 6 goes into 6 once. And 6 goes into negative 12, negative 2 times. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, and 1 times 1 is 1. We did not multiply or divide by a negative, so we will not flip the sign. M is less than or equal to negative 10. And finally, for number 10, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is negative 5 halves. The The 5s cross simplify, the 2s cross simplify, and the negative times the negative becomes a positive. So we're just left with h. You can see that we are multiplying by a negative, so we may flip the sign right away. And now we can cross simplify. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 8 4 times. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 1 is just 1, so we can just leave it as 20. Our circle will be filled in because h could be greater than 20, or it could be equal to 20. For number 14, a submersible, which is a submarine, descends 37.5 meters per minute from a sea level to explore a recent shipwreck. The shipwreck rests on the ocean floor at an elevation deeper than negative 3,810 meters, the elevation of the Titanic shipwreck. How long does it take the submersible to reach the shipwreck? So here's what we know. The elevation of the Titanic, we know that's negative 3,810. What we don't know is the time in minutes, t. And the other thing that we do know is we do know the submersible descends at 37.5 meters per minute. So now we can just solve. We'll divide both sides by negative 37.5. 37.5 divided by 37.5 is 1, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we just have t. We are dividing by negative 37.5, so we have to flip our symbol. And then I will save you the time of doing the long division. 3,810 divided by 37.5 is 101.6. So we would say the submersible takes more than 101.6 minutes to reach the shipwreck. In question number 16, you want to put up a fence that encloses a triangular region with an area greater than or equal to 60 square feet. Describe the possible values of C. Right. We need to know the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Cool. We know the base. And the area is going to be 60. It says the region has to have an area greater than or equal to 60. So we need this 1/2 12 times h. So we need this chunk right here, 1/2 12 times h, to be bigger than 60. So here's what we do. 12 times h is 12h. Half of 12h is 6h. And again, we need that 6h to be greater than or equal to 60. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. 6 over 6 cancels, leaving you with h. H has to be greater than or equal to 10. This last one is a try it for you. A motorcycle rider travels at an average speed greater than 50 miles per hour. Write and solve an inequality to determine how long it will take the motorcycle rider to travel 375 miles. Explain your reasoning. Push play when you think you have it, and then we'll talk through it. So we have 375, that's the total distance. And we know that the motorcycle is traveling at 50 miles per hour. So 50 miles times t. A motorcycle rider travels at an average speed greater than 50 miles per hour. So we're going to put our greater than symbol in here. Okay, and then we're going to divide by 50 on both sides. 50 over 50 cancels, just leaving you with t. That's a greater than symbol. And then 50 goes into 375 7 times with 25 left over. That can simplify to 7.5. So we would say in order to travel 375 miles, you would need to drive 7.5 hours. Actually, you would need to drive more than 7.5 hours to get to that 375 mile mark.